Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews, and along with me is the doctor, Nicholas Manning, at JT Matthews01 on Twitter and at DR_N Manning on Twitter, respectively.
Yeah.
Doc, how are we doing today? A little bit of technical difficulties to get our day started, but we are here, and we are, I think, good. Seems good.
Yeah, it was my fault. For sure. My bad, dog.
That's all right. It happens. sometimes with like these kind of calls, you can't really tell whose it is. I was just like hoping we'd figure it out, and eventually we did, and now we're here.
Exactly. I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Tell me about this. These pictures you keep putting in the group chat about what you're lifting, because I've been impressed.
I'm old, and
same.
Yeah. And I get hurt, and then usually I'll get poor me and angry and mad. And I have this program that when I stick to it, I feel better. To actually squat, like barbell squat 3 times a week, which for most people is like a lot of that, especially when you're 41. Yeah. However, I find that my hips stay more mobile because I'm working them out more. And so I was able to rep over 300 again. It felt really good. It felt like the weight moved fairly smoothly. I'm not gonna say easy, fairly smoothly. It's just like a nice payoff when you have to deconstruct everything. You start with a really low weight again, and you build up over weeks and weeks. So yeah, it's and I'm functional physically. So it was good. It's good. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me get a little.
Yeah, you got to get that braggadociousness, and I'm all for it. You got to get your wins in. You got to let people know. I think it's a good thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Same.
Yeah.
I gotta match that level sometime. I hurt my back the other weekend, and I'm just been like, man, this is what happens when I'm just too stagnant. You know what I mean? I didn't even hardly do anything, and it's just man, a good reminder. Time to put at least a little bit of effort in again. I've been kind of easing with the new job the last year, and now I'm coaching basketball and stuff. And it's I don't got time, but I better make time because otherwise I ain't gonna find time.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. That's how it is. So
that's how it goes. Well, let's start talking about some sports since we got a little bit of a late start. I want to jump quickly to the Avs specifically because the doc was at preseason game last night, and just wanted your observations. It seems like the Avs are 0-4 in their preseason outings. I don't know. I think you always want your team to win in preseason, but you remember in the back of your mind it's not an end all be all. Any concerns or any observations that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, so being there at the game yesterday, if you get a chance to go to a preseason game, because you can always you can get down there.
Yeah,
that's super dope. And apparently, if you present your face at the at the glass, the guys will try and hit you.
Oh, really?
Hey, go on. So didn't know that. And got a little scared. Not gonna lie. So what would I make of this? I wouldn't make much of it. They lost 6-1 last night after opening up the game with a goal. The first period they were flying. There were some missed opportunities, but really liked the energy. And then you realize that just like every other preseason, every other sport, there's a bunch of guys on there that one aren't going to make this team.
Yeah.
Two, are playing on a line right now that maybe they won't be playing on, or they wouldn't even if they make the team. So for instance, Nikolai Kavalenko. One, I was impressed. That guy was all over the ice.
Yeah.
He had some really on point shots from the slot. He looked like he meshed well. He was playing with Mikko and Nate. And I was pretty impressed by him. That said, it's he probably wouldn't be playing there if he makes the team. I think he
for
being in person, he was one of the stars of the losing effort. Quite a few shots on goal. I thought he forechecked really well. So it was nice to get an opportunity to see some guys that may be playing in a role that they won't be, and you can, forecast a little bit about what the vision might be for those guys, right? I don't know that you would put a guy like that, even in preseason, with, on that line if you didn't think that there's some potential there for him to grow into a frontline option at some point or something. So I thought that was I thought he was impressive. That said, I thought Nate was fast, and I think he's even bigger. I think he came in with a little bit more muscle this year, if I heard right. Which, when your best player is the hungriest player, it's really good. So the one concern I have is that goal. I think that's it's like depth, second line scoring, and goal. I think we feel pretty good about Middlestat coming in. Defensively, their top four are really good. And so, and when Nichushkin gets there, and when Gabe starts, and we've talked about that, they might not be 100% of them, but if those guys are even second and third line skill, the depth on this team goes up significantly. And so I'm excited about that, but I thought Gorgie almost does. Like, there's a bunch of almost saved that. A couple times that the defense, guys that probably won't make this squad, just couldn't clear out in front of the net. There was leaving rebounds. I mean, you and me would punch it in, and neither of us are fleet-footed on skates. And so some of those things were a little, you could see it and a little frustrating. So it was hard to really gauge like how much was on him, at least for the goals, to be honest with you, were goals that no one's going to get. He's like screened like 5 deep, which is just phenomenal to happen. And so, but he didn't do anything to there was really, a couple of really nice saves, but nothing that was like, oh yeah, like that's a guy that's going to be able to hold his own come playoff time. Last year he played improved after a shellacking in game 1. But he hasn't done much to squelch that. So depth question mark still. But I did like what I saw from some of the other guys on the roster. And is Gorgie going to be enough to get this team over the hump? I think this is the last year of his deal. Yep. Yeah. So this is it. I mean, it's they drafted a first round goalie for the first time, long time, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the market for another one, maybe next year. So it's his job. He has a chance to be a mainstay after this season, help them reach the cup or bust, or he's probably going to be playing for like Winnipeg or something.
Yeah.
Which Winnipeg's pretty good. Let me pick. I don't know anything about like Winnipeg, the city. So let's go with Carolina.
Okay. I know
they're in Raleigh, right? They're in Raleigh.
Columbus? Yeah, or maybe like Ottawa, someone that needs a little help.
Columbus sucks, right?
There you go.
The Utah Hockey Club.
I know, right? I've heard a little bit about it. I haven't been keeping my ear too close to the ground with Avs preseason yet, just because I've been ramping up a little more with Nuggets preseason. But I've heard Sam Malinsky looks good. I've heard that our rookie, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Cal Ritchie looked good. I think there's some guys at Kovalenko, I think, may get some play time, on some of those depth lines. And interested to see how that all pans out. I'm also ready for them to not play Nate and Mikko and anyone anymore. Just someone, I don't even remember who it was now, but I just read something about some major player getting hurt and is going to be out for 2 to 3 months with a knee injury because of a collision in a preseason game, and I'm like, we can't risk that right now.
Yeah, I know.
So there's always the fear. You want to get guys in there, want to let them play a little bit. Want to put them out there.
Yeah, I think that this was their first. I think this was their first live action. Was the game yesterday, and so
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and maybe they're handling them different. Yes, it's one of those where it's like that's the last that you want to have happen, but you also understand to be good at the sport, you got to play it. So yeah, what's the right mix? Bro, is the preseason football, whether it's like how much, can you over prepare also, right? Like that's especially because you might be playing a bit against a bunch of guys who aren't NHL talent, and then are you duped into, thinking maybe this move is a little bit more functional because you haven't played anyone. Yeah, of course you're going to get away with that with a bunch of accountants, and to all the accountants, nice job. But yeah,
it was Patrick Laine was hurt, and I'm just like, that's rough. That's not how that.
We got three of the best 10 players in the world. Let's try and make sure that those guys make it to week 1.
For sure. I want to talk Nuggets a little bit. First preseason game is on Friday at 9 a.m. Because it's in Abu Dhabi. I've got it recording, so if you need to watch it, we'll have it here. I'm feeling an infusion of energy with this team, and just kind of from what I've observed and listened to from folks covering it, it feels like everyone's a little refreshed. The impression I get from last year to this year is that last year they came in, maybe they spent a little too much time together, maybe they didn't get enough time away to just separate themselves from the game. This season, less guys were in the gym, which sounds like a bad thing, but I think at the same time it can be a positive thing, especially for a team at this level. This is a team we expect will be in the hunt for a championship. So I think that's an interesting observation. You kind of think of like, oh, guys were in the gym. Maybe that means guys are coming in bad shape. Sounds like Michael Porter Jr.'s put on some good weight. Looks a little stronger. That makes me worry a little bit just because of his injury history. Hopefully back will be able to pull up extra weight. They said even in light of Aaron Gordon's brother passing, that he looks to be in great shape as well. Certainly if you had any excuse to not come in great shape, that's definitely one, and it doesn't seem like that's the case. It just everyone looks good. Everyone's driven. It sounds like Julian Strother's looking good. He probably put in the most time in the gym, according to Coach Malone, and I think he's kind of feeling like, hey, KCP steps out, I've got an opportunity to get 15 minutes, 20 minutes a night. Let me step up.
I don't know that. I think that he might. Why can't he start? I think we all maybe it was Christian Brown's opportunity, which I think in the next man upness. Sure. That said, Julian Strother is a better offensive player, and so it really kind of depends. Well, has the tools to be a better offensive player, right?
Probably a better shooter.
Yes,
at least historically.
That has the history, for sure. So then it's a little, we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But I like that one. I like that mentality, right? It doesn't have to be, I want this other guy to fail. I'm working so hard at that. I'm going to make the choice difficult for you. And I think that's a good work ethic. I do think that this team spent too much time together. But more of it's like, you've hung out with your family and extended family for a chunk of time. And, there's like a point where you get and you're like, all right, I'm glad we don't run around each other all the time. Like, I love you and you weird, or you got like this thing that finally bugs me, or whatever that might be. I think that can wear on a team, in particular when it's high stakes, right? So playing for an NBA, it was an NBA title or bust. It wasn't, they weren't there to just see what they could do and maybe we could wreak a little havoc. This is a team that was defending a championship. So elevated risks, right? Lower reward. Like, you can't play better than you did last year, in the sense of you can't earn more than you did last year. You won the championship. There's only letdown really from there. With all of that being, and then with a family, which I think that group is actually really tight, which sometimes can be, like the oversaturation of it. So I do think them being apart, really outside of the questions that I have that have been really sparked by other people's worry about Jamal's work ethic. I have no idea whether or not Jamal works hard. I'm not going to pretend to be like, but other people have that concern. So he's really the one guy that concerns me. We talked about his Canada, Team Canada efforts and whether or not that should be a concern. Really, that's where that pocket is. I don't have any other reason to think that other guys aren't working hard. And even for Jamal, I think it's more of a headspace thing. I think there's conditioning because I think you have to condition your body to stay healthy. And there's a fine line between wearing yourself out and preparing yourself. And I think, I don't know what his regimen is. He's not a guy that's going to share much for sure. But I don't think it's not a group that I was worried isn't working on their game when they're not at the gym. Right. And I expected the younger guys to be there, Strother, Brown, all the guys that are 2 years and under, they're probably all very visible. Peyton Watson, right? Like, those aren't the guys I'm worried about, or I'm not, those are guys I'm worried about. I'm glad that they're around the gym. I know that Aaron Gordon is going to go work, like it really stinks what he has been through. And like you said, he has a reason to step out. I also think that this is his family partially, right? His adopted family. And he loves it here and he knows he's playing for a contract to stay in this area. He's not dumb. Aaron Gordon is a very intelligent young man. And so I think that there's a lot at stake here. And then you have the best player in the world who, he didn't win last year, and I bet that didn't feel good. And so I'm excited to see what this team. I think if Brown and Strother can surprise, which I think at least one will, if both can, or Peyton Watson becomes a thing, he keeps his mouth shut on podcasts and develops a corner three. I think it's a team that has the right mix of youth and vet savvy that especially as the season goes on and they get to know each other a little bit more, Russ Westbrook fits a little bit more clear. Like I think it has the capability of being a really dangerous team. And so with all of that, I'm super excited for the season, and much more actually than last year, because now I think they're not the hunted, right? Like now we get to go hunting again, and that part is super exciting. Just like, you got to slip in, like, let's go get it back. And I think that this team, there's a sense of that a little bit. Like we let you off the hook last year, and we're going to come back and we're going to take that back. Really excited to see what Russ brings. I think either Jamal will get healthy pushed or Jamal's gonna like really struggle.
Yeah, that's a big worry, I think, too, is like I don't think that either guy will kind of acquiesce to the other. I think they are who they are, and they will Russ will push hard because that's what Russ is known to do.
Yep.
And Jamal can be resistant. And I hope they're not, and I hope they develop a good relationship. That is the one little piece. I mean, Russ came in media day and said, "Hey, I'm here to push the young guys." And he named Jamal by name. Like, I'm here to push Jamal. I'm here to push Christian. I'm here to push Julian. All these guys, these young guys, Peyton. And I do worry that could become, I won't say toxic, but could become a bit of a sticking point for this team. It's just, I think right now the infusion of energy and the infusion of optimism feels good. Yeah. I think when things get a little tough and they hit some rough patches, how does Jamal respond to that coaching per se from Russ? And will Russ be able to read the room a little bit and kind of find a niche where it's comfortable for both of them? I think is a big question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a really good point. I think where I'm excited to see Russ is Russ will play hard night in and night out. I don't think I've ever watched Russell Westbrook not play hard. I don't think I've ever seen that. I've never seen him accused of it. Never seen And so that to me a little bit is like day in and day out, he's going to be there and he's going to push this team.
Yeah.
And so I think when you now have an example of a guy who has been an MVP, who has, right, like played in the finals. His career is unquestioned one of the best in the last 25 years at least, averaging a triple double. All of us Nugget fans appreciate that because we got the triple double big man, and so guys that play like that, I think we appreciate. So I think his tenacity, because when Jamal plays with that same intensity, he is different. Like that's playoff Jamal, right? That's
for sure.
The snarl and the arrow. And then, I think when you see it become negative is when you can tell he's pressing.
Yeah.
And so, Jamal's still young. I think, what is he, 27? I think it's important maybe for us to know that too, that he's still a young man. Like he's got a while till in the sport.
Yeah,
and having someone, if he's able to take the push, I think he's going to blossom. I think if his ego, if he feels like he has done more or is above or like all of that stuff, then I think he'll struggle. Russell Westbrook isn't a threat to Jamal Murray, right? Jamal Murray is a better offensive player than Russ. I think he's a better fit with Nikola than Russ, all of that good stuff, right? So you're not going to lose your spot. We need you to be 30 to 35 minutes a night guy. We need you scoring 22 to 25 a night. We want Russ to help elevate that, not take away from, right? And so I think if he comes in with a security of like, I'm still the man and they're here to push me, be a better player, and not that they're here to take what's mine. I think that Jamal's going to have a really good year. We'll see though. It didn't give me a lot of warm and fuzzies at the press.
No.
But I expect him to be a professional and come in because he's gotta.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point I think I'm hoping that it will be well received, mostly because it's Jamal's spot. No one's taking your spot, right? Even if Westbrook was to cut into your minutes, there's an argument that maybe that needs to happen a little bit as far as load management goes, and just overall health and energy level coming into the playoff. So I don't know that there's an immediate threat. It's just more about the willingness to be coached by another player, and he's a champion. And Russ isn't. I think that there could be a little bit of ego at play, but I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean there will be, because it's a whole bunch of alphas in the room. I don't expect Russell Westbrook to be over there like in his ear all the time, but I bet if he sees some stuff at his game that is a tell or a weakness or is a he at least has enough clout to broach it, right? Like he's earned that enough to be like, hey, Mal, like when you're doing this, I know what's coming, or whatever that might be. That's way different than, let's see who, right? Jalen Pickett is like, hey, Jamal, like, okay, Jalen, like you terrible. No, sorry, Jalen Pickett, you're better than me. Right, but there's nowhere like there. I don't think that there's anyone else on the roster that would do that with Jamal, because I don't think Nikola does that unless it's asked for. I just don't think he's that kind of guy. So maybe it's DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre's focus is the bigs. Like, what does he know about handling the ball in the pick and roll? Not much. That was not his bag. And so really, there's no one on that team's voice for the younger guards, really. And now there finally is. It's really been heavily weighted on supporting Nikola Jokic, right? Is kind of having the vet bigs for a long time. And so I think, remember Mike Miller? Mike Miller was a huge asset to be able to have, and much less of a role, that's for sure. But he kept getting the DeAndre Jordan deals to like just come back and be that guy. And I think if things are positive, Russ is a better version of that, right? Like he's a guy that can contribute minutes while also, providing some coaching to those guys. So, or at least just holding the boat. He's a better backup point guard than I remember us having since I don't know when. I mean, since maybe it was like Ray Felton and Ty Lawson. Both of those guys were like bottom tier-ish starting point guards, but really good backup point guards. That's probably the best backup situation that we've had like in a long time. So in the end, right, like it's still we need both of them. We saw what happens when you don't have that depth to be able to come in and close out. And I think Jamal will want to win. And I think especially if they can blend, he can get some shots up because of Russ's dribble penetration, then I think that they'll be copacetic for sure.
Yeah. That is the hope for sure. One more quick observation just with the Nuggets. And I'm actually going to steal this. I wish that it was my observation, but I'm not around the team enough to make this observation. But Adam Mars from DMVR made I think might have been on the show yesterday, said something about Jokic, which I think is true. Jokic is kind of acting like a superstar, and I mean that in the best way. And his observation was like, hey, they Jokic in the scrimmage that they got to watch was extremely aggressive. If the guy couldn't guard him, he backed him down, and they said he did it like 10 times in a row. Jokic he's rocking the facial hair.
Yep.
He's kind of wearing what he wants to practice. He's not, I guess he had some like pants that the legs have been cut off of. He's rocking. Like he's just kind of in his own bag right now and just kind of feeling himself, I think, a little bit. And I think it's such an interesting evolution. I think we used to see Jokic as this jovial, kind of playful guy. Didn't like the media, but you have these moments where he's dancing on court, and there's these gifs out there of all that stuff. It's kind of turned a corner a little bit. He's a little more serious. He seems a little more businesslike. I think he knows. I think he knows he's the best player in the world, and he's got to stave off some guys to keep that title of best player in the world. And there's a lot of pressure to kind of fight off the herd of up and coming guys. I think maybe he's going to be. I hope finally we get a little more aggressive. Not that obviously he was doing it before just fine, but maybe when he has those mismatches, he's just going to dominate in those situations. That's the hope. Obviously it's just observation, and again, it's outside observation. But I really like that point. I wanted to hit it again because it makes me excited for this maybe new kind of version of Nikola Jokic.
I think sometimes he's like worried about making people look bad. He's super humble.
That's
and
fair,
I think he appreciates what it takes to get to this level, right? Like he didn't, this was not the chosen one, right? He was not highly touted.
Yeah.
He's not Luka. He wasn't Ricky Rubio. He's none of those European stars who were heralded to be kind of the guy. Wembanyama, right? Like all of that stuff.
Teammate Darius Saric.
Yeah. I mean, those were guys that were, they were the chosen few, or at least like had that. So Nikola was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. We all know that part, right? Like he was an afterthought. So I think he appreciates what it takes to play at this level. And so he's been a guy that won't show people up. And I think sometimes to his own detriment, like, right, I can do this and be 10 of 10 and, until they figure it out. But he's the guy that will pass that up because he wants to make sure everyone's involved. Like there's just a really selfless version of him that's phenomenal. And sometimes it's not what's best for the team, which is super weird to say, right? Like sometimes you being selfish is what's best for the team. Him shooting a 60% clip is better than, Jamal's like, during the playoffs, Jamal should have shot less, right? Like there's you're not feeling it, Nikola, no one's stopping you. Like stop sharing.
Yeah. He's
just a guy that won't operate that way. And so you hope that that's a little bit of, I'm the effing man. And, I'm going to take what's mine. And and marrying it with his ultra team focus, like all of that stuff. I wouldn't even know how to do that to the right degree. Like when do you, but that to me, I think will serve them well, especially in crunch time games when that's why you get paid $50 million. Right. Is I need you to go 6 for 8 in the fourth quarter and grab 6 rebounds and $2. We got to win. Go turn it on. So him having that, even if it's scrimmage, even if it's, you're not helping those guys by taking it easy on them. They're not going to get better if you find out what they're not good at and you don't do it again. So that to me, I think is a positive. I don't know if he is a guy that will continue to carry it. It's hard to fight against, your nature. But he has deserved the right to, yep, I'm him. And you guys got to play better.
For sure.
There's a guy that can say that in any sport right now.
Right.
He's the one, right? I am the bar. And I'm not going to, you guys got to come up here.
For sure.
I like it. Again, when your best player is your hardest worker. Yep. Dig it. Go Ducks.
Quick transition. We're going to get to Broncos talk very briefly, but I wanted to make sure we hit on CU's dominant win over UCF. Just a game that they were, I think, 2 touchdown underdogs, at least for the betting line in Vegas.
They beat the spread by 42 points.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild. Talk about Vegas being wrong.
I mean, right? And they
everyone really, not just Vegas.
I mean, it was. Not just wrong, but wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
So, begs 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
A, is Deion Sanders a good football coach? Here's why I asked that. I think that there's been a lot of speculation about Deion being a good marketing mind, a good speaker, motivational speaker, someone who, when he gets in front of the camera, knows what to do. But I haven't really heard many complimentary things about him as a coach, an X's and O's football coach. And I'm just going to ask the other thing too, just really quick, so we can get onto the Broncos stuff, because I know that's what most people are here for. But NB, should Travis Hunter be your Heisman leader?
Yes. I'm going to answer backwards. Yes, Travis Hunter is the best football player. He is, I'll say this, it's probably hyperbole, but maybe not. He's the best football player I've seen in college ever. And I mean that by a football player, right? If we were to say, all right, we're going to do just a pick 'em game, we get to pick whoever we want, and we're going to play each other, whatever, 7-on-7, whatever that might be, right? If he is not the number 1 pick by everyone every single time, I think, because he does 2 jobs extremely well. He's Shohei Ohtani of college football.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll right? Ohtani will take you deep and then strike you out. Right? Holy crap. He will score a touchdown on you, and then he'll pick you off the next series. Holy crap. He's not just a dude on either side of the ball. He is him on both sides of the ball. That, to me, is just last year I was like, he can't do it. In high school, we struggled to play.
Yeah.
And the really good kids, it's just a separation of skill set in high school, where the best athletes are going to win out 99% of the time. Right. And so those guys can just out athlete you. He is a better athlete than most, but it's more than that. His instincts for not being able to focus on one side of the ball is it's next world. And so if they're going by the best player, because he's also putting up stats. I think he leads the nation in catches, or he's pretty close. So it's not like he's, he has 3 catches a game and one's a bubble screen for a touchdown. He's securing the rock. And so if it goes to a quarterback again, then we need to redo our MVPs and the Heisman trophies and take them away from it being the best players and have them be individual positional awards. Because that's just what's the point? We're not really honoring and understanding the importance of positions within football. The team aspect is just a quarterback award. And then what do I think that Coach Prime is a good football coach. Yes, I think he is perfect for college, and here's why. Because you need a CEO. Yeah. You don't need an X and O. That's what your coordinators are there for, and your position coaches. Sure. Dion, is that to say that they shouldn't be someone that's good at or understands the game? No, they got to be able to know what to expect. What kind of style of football do they want? They have to be able to critique when their coordinators aren't doing a good job or are, and giving praise or what they're asking for. There's got to be that. And I think Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer, I think he understands X and O's just fine. But his job is to hold the whole ship together, right? What's our identity? What is our philosophy here? What kind of guys do we want, right? I got to go pick. He's picking the groceries. I mean, in the end, right? That's what he is doing. He is the general manager in all aspects of it, right? He's the one that's compiling the team together. And so I think in college, I think you need to be that guy. And so I think when you get really successful at a big program like that, you can't be, Nick Saban wasn't the guy that was hovering over the defense all the time anymore at Alabama. He was a guy that knew he had to get offensive minded coaches in it. And he had to widen his scope for the dynasty to be able to go, because he had to adapt and he had to be the CEO. He had to run the entire ship. Couldn't just rely on a stout defense. Same in Georgia. Kirby Smart had to take his thumb off the defense so that he could have an influence over the totality of the team. And so I think that Prime is showing that he can be a good coach from that aspect. I don't think he is a guy right now, though, that he's not someone that I would say if it's an equal talent game that I would give him the edge on game planning. But again, I don't know that if I've ever said this. Pat Shurmur did a really good job.
Yeah.
I heard Joel Klatt talking about just the change in philosophy. And so they ran 11 personnel as opposed to zeroed out personnel. I mean, really, they were running 4 receivers and 1 running back and then trying to run out of it, which you're losing the numbers battle in the box every time. And so no wonder you can't run the ball. You can't out block guys when you have less people. It's physically not going to work, especially when you don't want Shedeur Sanders to boot out, right? It's not Milroe or some of those guys that are 230-pound running quarterbacks. That's not Shedeur. And so they started running more 11 personnel, having a tight end in so you can be more complex in the run game. I don't know if that's what Deion called for, but I know that that's what he supported. And Pat Shurmur made that change over the last couple of weeks, and now they've been able to run the ball. Shocking. Those kind of things. So, and defensively, I mean, this group, if you watch college football last year, they weren't good at defense. If you've watched them over the past decade, they haven't been that good at defense. They got some dudes, and they're playing really good defense. So to me, it's I don't know how much he's stirring it, especially at hopefully an upper echelon college program. He shouldn't be. You don't have enough time, I don't think. Right. And so, but I think we'll see. I think that was the biggest statement win in this school for a long time. Probably, maybe since Philip Lindsay, they beat Utah, all that stuff.
Right.
But probably even, that season is kind of an asterisk season. So even before that, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty significant. So we'll see. They play K-State here in a couple weeks. If CU wins that, I really don't see why they can't be a favorite to come out of the Big 12, which is just, it's the Deion haters don't want that. I'll tell you that, though. Oh man, they'll be beside themselves if his style works, right? Because he now is a guy that has shown that he can adapt to the craziness that is the NIL, and if he can do that and he can win, yeah, Dabo,
perfect. Yeah, no, I agree on both points. Let's move to Broncos talk. Your Denver Broncos got a hard fought 10-9 win on Sunday against the New York Jets in New York in pretty terrible weather circumstances, some insane rain. Apparently, it was extremely gross. I mean, it looked extremely gross, but we've heard multiple players talk about how awful it was. Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee today and said essentially the same thing. Like the worst weather game he's been involved in, essentially.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Because Zach By was like, yeah, I texted a buddy who was at the game and it was like, I was like a 5 or 6. Like I've been in worse as a fan. But I mean, he couldn't throw the ball either. Like it wasn't just a Bo Nix problem. It was so that's interesting. I didn't know that he said that, because part of it is like, oh man, it's probably just a rookie and he hasn't figured stuff out. But I think
he came out and said that today. At least that's what I've gathered from Twitter, so I could be wrong. But that's my belief, my understanding. So just quick thoughts on the game. I know that there's a ton takeaway, but I think that there's some pieces that are important. And then I'm going to have maybe a controversial question after.
All right.
After break it down.
My thoughts on the game were, I mean, you saw me. I was like jumping around like a kid. I was like arm pumping and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of those. My senior high school year, we beat Evergreen, who was the runner-up in 3 or 4A the year before. Beat the crap out of us the year before. We played in like the worst conditions. Like it was nasty. We beat them 2-0. We got a safety in like the third quarter, and it was that bad of a. And I remember like just the feeling of like, right, like no one thought we were gonna win. Nobody except Adam Rank picked the Broncos to win. Shout out Adam Rank. So one, like I knew that we didn't think they were gonna win either. I didn't think they were gonna win.
No,
it's a game that we chalked up as a loss when the schedule came out. Like, oh yep, Aaron Rodgers is back. Like that's probably a L. And so knowing that it's really them versus the world, except Adam Rank, is pretty huge. And then was just like, it was gutsy. It was hard nose. Like it was a running game. They finally decided, they let old school Javonte out, which was nice to see. And just an absolute like team, a team win, because in the end it did take Bo Nix throwing a pass for a touchdown in a terrible, in nasty conditions. Cortland toe tapping the crap out of it to support a defense that was just absolutely nails. And so my feeling now is, why not them, right? And so what a difference one game makes. They lose that game, they're 1-3. You're like, yeah, no, in the end, we're just trying to see if Bo Nix can play, which is what would have been my answer, which is true.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now they're 2-2 in a stretch that you get the Chargers, you get the Panthers, you get the Raiders, and you get the Saints. Yep. Who have come back to the pack, right? Like now that 4-game stretch, which we all thought was like, this is probably the easiest of the stretches. It now has a chance to catapult you. If you've done a Broncos mock draft lately, similar, they pick 22nd now instead of 3rd or 4th. Like that's how much one game difference makes, is that they are, they are in the playoff hunt. They are the 5th seed if the season were to end right now, which is just nuts. And I think they will only get better. Right. So they are playing phenomenal defense. Vance Joseph, you silly bastard. You had us. You're like, I'm gonna mess with them all. Where I'm like, gotta start real low, sure. Give a 70. They're gonna keep me around, make Justin Fields look like a all pro, and then I'm gonna just flip this. And he did. And he did. And it's like, oh jeez, man. He didn't have to do it with the 70 burger. 60 would have been fine.
Right.
So it's like defense travels as it did. Running game travels as it did. And so that Bo Nix will play better, or I believe that, because he hasn't been overly good. He had one really good game, I think, against Tampa. Outside that, marginal at best. I think we would all agree. So if you think that he can play better, the defense is, there are really smart football people saying it's the best defense in the NFL. Holy what? Right? Like that was the side everyone was worried about. We don't have enough talent over there. And so
I worried about that.
Right? I mean, it really was. It just
especially in the second
it was physical talent, but unproven. And so you got guys playing out of their mind. Zach Allen is playing like that contract, right? I have not once thought of Draymond Jones. See, geez, I almost forgot his name.
Yeah, I forgot it was.
Jonathan Cooper is playing. We all know we need to pay that man today.
Yep.
No one is questioning why you gave Pat Surtain that money.
Nope.
Riley Moss has answered the question on that's their plan. Dude's a phantom, right? Phantom pass interference call away from just
right.
PFF has him as the 12th best corner in the league. It's super dope. It's this is a culture group that you can tell loves each other right now. We'll see. They go through a 3-game losing streak or something, they'll get tested. But in the now, which they lost the first 2 games. We oh crap, we're in for it again. And to band together to win on the road against Tampa, who then comes out Sunday and dominates, and Aaron Rodgers, who had 10 days rest, and the last time he was out was an absolute surgeon.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, if you can get out of your own way with your quarterback, maybe this is the 10-win team that they think that they are. That coaching staff thought that this team was a playoff team. All of us reserved judgment because he said that last year, and we didn't make the playoffs. And so, fool me once.
We've been through a lot of pain recently.
Been through a lot. Yeah, we are the battered spouse right now, and it's just I'm not going to trust you until you show me. But it's a team to be excited about in terms of they're winning with the youthful players, right? It's not.
Yeah.
There's not a washed up vet that's or an older guy that's that's turning back the clock, and you're like, man, he's probably just going to come back to earth at some point. Cortland is the old vet on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
That's playing well. Brandon Jones, 26. He is playing what? What? Sorry, just random phases of thoughts for me. But I'm excited because I think that this team will really start hitting its stride probably in 3 more weeks. Holy crap, this defense can play better. Can it? Why not? Right? They're communicating to this degree right now. Why not? The only thing that holds it back is Singleton and that injury, and I think you can mask it for a game. Can you mask it for a season? We'll see. Justin Strnad, tip of the cap to you, my guy. I have been.
Absolutely.
He was a guy that I thought could be the long-term answer at that position when he was drafted, and I have been critical. And you got to give guys their flowers. I've never seen that from him. In one game, the guy was downhill. You and I talked about it while we were watching it. Just holy crap. He looks like a different dude. And maybe, just maybe, he was a guy that wasn't built for Vic Fangio's system, right? Where now he has a gap and he can fly to it and show no mercy. And he's playing pretty well. If you can get that kind of play at your inside linebacker spot from guys that are dudes, there's nowhere for this team to go up. My question for you would be, maybe are you, outside of just the win, are you more optimistic about the outlook of this team now? Or is there more doubt because offensively they were still not great?
No, I mean, I'm more optimistic for sure. I think that they are doing some things better. I think they're learning how to use Linux a little bit better. I think they're kind of getting away from training wheels a little bit. Obviously, last game that's a hard assessment because of the weather conditions. But they trusted him over the middle of the field to Cortland Sutton on that drive. I think it was something like a 42-yard catch over the middle of the field on 3rd and 11. They're kind of slowly taking the training wheels off. They're given an opportunity to take shots to the field. I think that's important. I think they're going to have to be able to do that as the season goes on, especially as you get into kind of the more robust part of your schedule and into your divisional games. You know, those first two teams in Seattle and Pittsburgh were just teeing off, and they played close to the box.
Yep.
You know, they kept the safety high, but really everyone was kind of playing close to the line.
Yep.
And we were getting beat up. And I think they've kind of expanded that. They've allowed Bo to use his legs a little bit more. I think that they'll continue to do that. I think that there's still going to be growing pains. There's still going to be bad throws. We're going to lose some games that could come down to the wire. But we didn't this time. We showed toughness. And ultimately they get to come home and dance against the Raiders this week. And I think that they've got just a good shot to win this game as they do in the previous two games. And so I think that that's exciting. I think Broncos fans should be excited. My controversial question, and it's not really that controversial, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but who has Vance Joseph outcoached Sean Payton to this point in the season?
Yep. I think that's a fair question. Yes. For what he's responsible for. I mean, you're seeing it, right? And to be honest, outside of Pat Surtain, that I don't know that you're picking any of the Broncos players one for one to swap out with give me a quasi top 10 defense. Zach Allen might be a guy, maybe McMillian. I don't know how to pronounce our players' names anymore. Macmillan. Maybe him in the slot. Maybe he's got like top 10 slot respect now, but probably it. And like, that's it. That's like, it's not, look at San Francisco's roster. It's not Pittsburgh's roster. It's not, you got guys on each level that are all pro potential, etc. And so you lose your two best players on that side of the ball, or not two best players, two of your best players, right? Justin Simmons, who is all pro safety, Josie Jewell, who is a 4-year starter. And you play better. Like, yeah. Yep. Riley Moss, who didn't start, like, I think he had under 100 defensive snaps last year. They're starting and playing well, right? And Malcolm Roach, like, those guys were added for pennies on the dollar. They didn't go out and spend for Christian Wilkins, and so that to me is the yes, I think he's done a better job. You obviously have to give Peyton credit for whatever influence that he's had on it. But I think you got to give him his flowers. I think for now, now it's kind of really, now it's like Peyton's turn to catch up. So what I also think is necessary is now, like, Sean's got to stop worrying about being the smartest guy in the room. And, like, so whatever you did with Javonte last week, right? Your ability to be able to switch up your scheme and get him the ball in a way that he looked comfortable. He looked fast. He looked decisive, which wasn't what he looked like the previous 3 weeks. Do that again, please.
Yeah, 100%.
We are targeting the crap out of Cortland Sutton because he's our best offensive weapon. Continue that, please. Right? There's some things now where it's like, get out of your own way. Stop trying to get in your bag and play to the strengths of your team. And I think if we continue to do that, I think Sean will catch up. What I really liked about this win, last week, right? I think it was a good letdown opportunity. Like, they went and blew out a really good team. If they close lost, I think we would have taken that as like, all right, like on the road 2 weeks in a row. If they lost that game, I still would have been okay in the sense of, like, we were there to the end. The fact that this team found a way to win when they haven't been winners in a while, I think goes to show the turning of the leaf, because it wasn't a freak win. It wasn't, they got 5 turnovers, right? They played really good defense. But it wasn't historic turnover ratio, right? Where it's 4-1 every game or whatever was ridiculous last year. And so that part, I think, is something that is exciting, right? is Bo made a play when he had to. And the team rallied and responded, right? We miss a kick. Our defense, gives up enough yards to make that a 50-yarder, which if that's a 38-yarder, he's probably nailing that through. So I'm super excited about that. Just to kind of go the team defense, looking at Pro Football Reference. Right now, Denver's third. So in yards, they're third. Let's see. Touchdowns given up, they are tied for fifth with a bunch of other teams. In yards allowed, they're third. I think you can kind of keep going from there, but it's just,
sure.
They're playing at a really, really good clip. Yards per game. They are 12th in rushing, but last year they were historic bad. Because this year they're giving up their 9th in yards per attempt rushing at 4.1. Last year they're at like 5. That's, just that adjustment when you've lost Josie Jewell, now you've lost Alex Singleton, and you lost Justin Simmons, and your really only big addition was Malcolm Roach, John Franklin Myers. And so those are your two, but you lost your best run defender in Mike Purcell, which is, to be able to continue to do that, I think is just phenomenal. Super phenomenal.
I agree. I'm with you.
You're welcome. Thanks for that. Yeah. That's where is it? Right there.
Your little bird.
Appreciate you. I love that you get to see that too. I'll let my wife know. Like, she wants credit anytime that she can get it, so I'll let them know that you appreciate that. I got to appreciate. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know. Hey.
Just boosting that ego over here.
Thank you.
We'll get back to Johnny.
I don't even need this tongue in cheek or you're being facetious. Don't care at all. Let's talk about really quick. Let's smash out Sunday's game. So
yeah, I want to ask the Johnny question real quick.
Oh yeah.
He says, I feel like the weather and several refereed robberies as far as plays and challenges taken away from us. For us to hold fast and win shows that this team is resilient. Thoughts?
Yep. Yes. Johnny nailed it. Because I think it's also really easy when you're coaching. I think one of the challenges that Sean had on Sunday was a legitimate, let's challenge that one. The other one was like, bro, I don't know what angle you're looking at, but we're not going to win that one. And I think sometimes when the coaches do that, I think players, I'd get resentful. Like, dude, you're getting in our way of winning. Please stop. And for them not to do that, to not give up when we miss a field goal that would have iced the game. We didn't pick up that first down that would have iced the game. For the defense still to come in locked in and, bend but not break and doing what they need to do to put the pressure back on the Jets to make that kick. I think resiliency really in the end, it's the measure of your strength and in times of adversity. Right. And so, we'll all push through. We try and survive. Like, we'll do that stuff. Resiliency for sure is, can you thrive through difficulty, right? Dawn Staley has this really epic speech. It's really phenomenal. But essentially she's saying, right, that the world doesn't get easier. You get better at doing hard. And I think this team is getting better at doing hard, right? If it's not pretty, we still know that if we do enough, we can win. And I don't think that's been the case here. It felt like if things don't really go our way, we don't have anyone that's going to step in and create that moment for this team. You and I have talked about it. Like, well, who's the playmaker here? Like, who's going to be the drive stopper? Or who's going to be the clutch third down guy? Who's going to make sure we get that 3rd and 1? Like, do we have that? Like, I don't know. I don't know if we have it. And I still don't know if there are enough. But I do think that you're getting more answers, right? I think Jonathan Cooper has shown that maybe we were wrong about his ceiling. Like, he's looked good every game. And he was good in good moments. So Zach Allen, I thought Riley Moss came through in quite a few moments. That Brandon Jones again is a revelation back there. And so if you can keep getting that, right? Where guys are good in big moments. It's not even that they have to do more, but just don't shrink. I think that's what we're kind of seeing. So hopefully it needs to last for this team to be relevant. But I think they've showed some grit and they showed some staying power. And I think that will maintain. Whether or not that gets them in the playoffs, we'll see. But one big thing that will get them in the playoffs is winning on Sunday. So they play the Las Vegas Raiders. First opportunity to beat this team since it moved to Las Vegas, which is so stupid to say. And all in all, while Devontae Adams is asking for a trade, there's still questions on who should be the starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew got benched. Aiden O'Connell comes in, but still Minshew's game to start. Defensively, the Raiders have not looked like they did last year. Last year, this was a really good outfit. They were a really strong defense that played really, really well. That's why Antonio Pierce got the job, really. Long term, really, it's like the three guys are up front that are playing pretty well, and Wilkins, Freeman Butler, and Max Crosby. But I think Max is even like dealing with a sprained ankle. All that to be said, I think it's the first time in a while that they are the favorite in any game. I don't, outside of Carolina, and maybe one of the Chargers games, maybe, where they a preseason favorite this season. So this game moved from they were the underdog to being the favorite. And I think that now you have to play like it. I think that this is a must win. One, for the Ghosts, get the Ghosts out. But two, they're a better football team. Right? So I think a better football team needs to win. And they've shown that the defense, I think, is far and away better than what Vegas has. So I think that they need to win this game. And I think offensively, they have to give us all quite a bit more hope in what they're doing. So, what are your thoughts? Is this a must win in your eyes?
Yeah, it's hard to designate a must-win game already. I think it would go a long way towards kind of catapulting us. So in that way, I would agree. I mean, after two losses early in the season, you're 2-2. I don't know that it would garner a must-win, but I think that as far as divisional gameplay, like it's certainly a big opportunity for them. And I think that it's something that they have the ability to capitalize on. If Max Crosby's not 100%, he's been someone that's wrecked our games for a while now, going back multiple years. And as much as I don't enjoy him per se, he's a talented player. And so if he's even playing on one leg, that gives us an opportunity to just take advantage of that. I think ultimately they're a more talented team than I gave them credit for probably beginning of the season. Brock Bowers looks good. I don't think we're surprised by that. No. But when you have Gardner Minshew as your starting quarterback, you wonder about how effective the passing game will be. Ultimately, I think there's still questions about that, but I think that they've shown that they can put up some points when they need to, or at least in stretches, enough to get some wins. And so I think that you've got to respect this team, but at the same time, I don't think you have to hold them in high regard. I don't think this is a team that you can necessarily, you're going to respect them, but you're going to go out there and put on your best plays, and I think really challenge them.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity for them. I think to really dive into their identity, run the ball.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like play better than, not playing down to your opponent. I think now something's expected of you. Now, how do you respond? So before it was really easy to put the chip on his shoulder. And, no one believes in us. Well, now people believe in you a little bit. So what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now when you have the pressure of the favorite to not only go out and win, but, try and do so in pretty convincing fashion. That said, you and I will be at the game. Let's go, baby.
Yes, we will.
We're going to be at the game on Sunday. If you are around, shoot us a little message. And we try and meet up with some folks pregame, postgame, all that good jazz. So I think the Broncos are going to get a dub. I think it is a game where I think Sean Payton will bounce back from And, really how much of it is bad weather, who knows? But much more of the offensive football we saw in Tampa and less of what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it will be a tough game. I still think ultimately the Broncos will win. I'm going to say 23-20, just a squeaker, but it's going to count, and it's going to maybe catapult this offense a little bit. And so that's my hope. That's the dream, so to speak. But we got to run. We're over time. We got kids to pick up, all that good stuff. But thank you, everyone, for being here. We appreciate you. Go Broncos. Nuggets on Friday. They get their win. Avs need to get a preseason win just to make us feel a little better.
That's not enough.
But there's some good stuff going on in town, and we'll keep our ear to the ground, and we'll be bringing it to you every Wednesday about 2:30. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. And remember, if you need a sports prescription, call a doctor.
I'll let your boy.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.